Arena Rule 11, line of the ball, and Arena Rule 12, right of way. These two concepts are not the same, but they're interrelated. You can't really have one without the other, and you can't really understand polo without mastering this concept of right of way and line of the ball. So let's get started. Okay, I've put up a graphic here, and in the graphic you have a white player who's hitting the ball forward along that yellow line, and there's also a red arrow there and then some words in the upper right hand corner. So let's just go through this. First, the easy part, the line of the ball. The line of the ball is simple. It's the path the ball has taken while it's traveling and the projected path that it's going to take. So if you see this player in the white shirt, she's hitting the ball forward. Well, it's going in the direction of the yellow line, and that is the line of the ball. That's it. Now the line of the ball changes every time the direction of the ball changes. Simple as that. Okay? It's an imaginary line created by the direction and path of the ball. Doesn't matter how fast the ball is traveling. None of that matters. It's just a direction. All right. Now that we've established the line of the ball, the right of way is dependent upon the line of the ball. The right of way is the right to travel forward unimpeded by opposing players in front of your horse. So the red arrow would be this player in the white shirt. This would be her right of way, would be that red arrow. And that red arrow extends in the arena about a horse length and a half in front of that horse. So what I'm saying is, this white player, as long as she is traveling just to the left of the line of the ball and has the line of the ball on her offside, which is her right side, she has the right, just by virtue of that position, she has the right to travel forward a horse length and a half-ish without anyone from the other team coming in front of her horse. Now, the width of the right of way is right stirrup to left stirrup and in front of the horse's face, about a horse length and a half. Outdoors, we use 2 horse lengths as our base for the right of way. Inside, it's a little smaller, a little more compact. Arena polo is much more compact. So it'll be about a horse length and a half. Okay, now, with that being said, the factors that are going to affect that right of way, in other words, how far does it extend in front of the player's horse? The factors that affect that are how fast is the player going, so the speed. So if you look up to your right, on the upper right hand corner of the graphic, speed of the player affects the length of the right of way. Okay, so if the player is going really fast, then she has the right to a longer right of way in front of her, because the rule says an opposing player may not enter the right of way of a player who has the line of the ball so as to have a risk of collision, or a slightest risk of collision. I think that's the outdoor one. Anyway, so we don't want any risk of collision if you're going to enter into that right of way and try to get the ball. So the player's speed, the original player's speed, important. The relative speeds of the two players, okay, is the player that has the line of the ball in the right of way going faster or slower than the opposing player that's trying to cut in front of them? That's important. Okay, the distance between the two players, the player that has the line of the ball in the right of way and the player that's trying to jump in front. Let's say it's the green number 1 on the upper left hand corner of your screen. Okay, the distance between them is very important. We just said about a horse length and a half if they're both going about the same speed at maybe a brisk canter, but at a gallop it might be 2.5. Okay, so the distance between them is very important. The angle at which the opposing player wants to enter your right of way is very important. The slighter the angle, the more of a chance of it not being a foul. The greater the angle, the more danger, the more risk of collision, the more of a chance of it being a foul. Okay, so stay with me so far. If you take relative speeds and distance and you mush them together, the umpires have coined a term for this. It's called gap. The gap between the two players. One player that has the right of way and is on the line of the ball, and the other player who wants to enter into the right of way. The distance between those players, their relative speeds, is together called gap. So if the gap is opening, that means the player that wants to enter into the right of way is going faster than the player that has the right of way. That's a good thing. If the gap is opening, good thing, less chance of collision. If the player that has the line of the ball in the right of way, let's say this white player here, is going faster than the green player up on the upper left, then the gap would be closing. The distance between them is becoming incrementally less. Well, that's more of a risk of collision if the green wants to enter into the right-of-way of the white. So that would be associated with a more likely of a foul situation. Okay, so the umpires take all of these things into consideration: speed, relative speeds, distance, and angle at which the opposing player comes in to the right-of-way of the player that has the right-of-way. Those are the considerations that umpire makes when determining if a right-of-way violation has occurred. Okay, that's the basics. I don't want to say any more about it because I'll confuse you and I'll confuse me. But if you just stick to that basics, we'll go over a couple of other right-of-way violations that are just specifically delineated in the rule. But this is the very basic of outdoor polo and indoor polo. Indoor polo being more compact. The line of the ball, you get that line of the ball on your right, then you have a right-of-way to move forward. About a horse length and a half, more if you're going faster, less if you're going slower. I know we're keeping this super simple, but there is one other concept I want to introduce to you. What happens if two players are going towards the ball and neither one is on the line and neither one has the right of way because neither one is on the line? What do you do in that circumstance? It's actually very simple. The player that is at a lesser angle to the line of the ball, we'll go ahead and give that player the right of way. Okay, now that you have the basics of the right-of-way rules, 11 and 12, in place in your mind, let's go through a couple of other things the rule has delineated. And then to really understand this rule, I want you to watch the examples that we're posting below this video, and those are really kind of where you're going to learn it. Okay, so in the arena, two opposing players riding together have the right-of-way over a singular player. So one player can't meet two. That's one meeting two. The two players that are riding together need to be at an equal or lesser angle to the ball than the singular player. That's important. If you are following the ball along the boards, you have the right-of-way, whether you're on your offside or your near side. If the ball is up against the boards and you're following it, in other words, traveling in the same direction as the ball, whether that ball is on your offside or on your near side, you have the right-of-way. That's unique to the arena, but you need to know that. If you have the ball and you stop very quickly and the players from behind you run into you, you can't do that. That's a foul. You have to keep pace. Now, this is most common on the boards. You definitely need to keep pace on the boards more than anywhere else. If you're on the boards and you have the ball, you can't just stop. It's going to be a foul on you, even though you didn't enter into anyone's right-of-way. It's just dangerous riding, but it is under right-of-way. So just know that. You get the ball in the arena, keep your pace. Or if you're going to stop suddenly, make sure no one's behind you, and then you won't foul. If the ball passes your stirrup in the arena and you're not fouling the player behind you, they have to go to their near side and you can play it on your offside. But it has to pass your stirrup exactly on a straight line, and you have to be in front of them far enough to where you're not blocking or shading them. In other words, you're not fouling them already. Coming over after the shot. Well, when you make a play, you don't want to cross over the line of the ball too much after you hit it. And if you do, if you come over too much and it impedes the opposing player next to you, then you fouled. Cut shots and neck shots, just be wary of these. You're going to take a neck shot, you're probably going to lose the line to the player on your left. Same thing with cut shots. You take a cut shot and there's an opposing player on your right, you're going to lose the line to that player most likely. So when you come back in, make sure you take the man first, because the umpires will honor the actual line. They don't care who hit the ball last. So just remember that. The umpires are getting much more savvy in the arena. Turning in the arena, quick mention for turning. Turning in the arena is a little different than turning outdoors. In theory, it's the same. What you don't want to do is deprive the player behind you, the opposing player behind you, of a legitimate near side play on the ball by your turning to the right. So that would be a foul, just like it is outside, except that the arena is more compact, the right-of-ways are shorter, and the speeds are not as fast as outside. So basically what I'm saying is turning isn't much of a foul inside. Everybody turns it all the time. And the reason why it's not much of a foul is because the players are at a slower speed and they can't get the horse. If somebody's going to turn the ball to the right in front of you, it's unlikely you're going fast enough to be deprived of that near side play. And that's a theory. Usually you're just chasing them. That's what I've seen in the arena polo that I've done. So oftentimes a player turns the ball in the arena and an opposing player behind them comes down with their mallet up in the air. You're not even almost close to being there. You've got to be right on top of them. And the speeds are so much slower than outside that you don't really get that danger that we have with turning outside. So there's going to be a lot more turning in the arena. Just know that. But it is possible for you to get enough speed that if a player turns to the right quickly in front of you and deprives you of that near side play, then that's turning. But there's a lot fewer turning calls inside than there are outside. And that's the reason. It's speeds.